Thank you for that introduction and for explaining, the first thing that I was going to say, which is, you may notice that there's only one person here. I am sorry you got the lesser of the two speakers, so please be kind with your questions. Jason sends his apologies, and if you have any questions that I can't answer, then he is contactable. His contact details are in the presentation. So I'm going to speak to you about the vet stressor study. So Jason sort of led the research, and myself and several other team members were involved. So Claire, Kate, Ruth and Jenny, all fellow vets who've been in clinical practice and are in academia at the moment. Catherine, who also is another representative from Keele, but she's from the School of Psychology. So what were we interested in? What were the issues? So really, the issues that we're all already aware of from research that's already been done is the high rates of distress and attrition within the veterinary profession, but there is limited data on environmental stresses and the trajectories, so a lot of anecdotal, we chat about it now more so than maybe we did before, but sort of more sort of evidence-based data was needed. We also believed as a team that there's an overemphasis maybe on this sort of individual mental health paradigm, and we need to consider not only sort of psychologically safe individuals, but also psychologically safe organisations, and sort of placing that emphasis maybe in a slightly different place. But there is a need to understand the stressor trajectories so we can target support, so that we aren't sort of blanket giving everybody the same sort of training regime, and that we understand the needs of individuals and different practitioners. So our research questions then were, which stressors are the most severe? And how do those stressors change over time? And do they change over time as a function of the career stage of the clinicians? Method-wise, it was done via a cross-section quantitative study. It was all online, and it was a questionnaire. We'd identified 93 stressors, and they looked at workplace and work pattern variables, and we also looked at demographics, so we did get some information on that as well. Participants-wise, so just to give you a little bit of background on the demographics, we had 658 participants. It was distributed between a variety of veterinary professionals, so we did send it out to veterinary surgeons, veterinary nurses and students in both of those areas as well, but it was focused on clinicians rather than the non-clinical staff. Gender-wise, we did have 85% female bias and a 77% white British bias. And as you can see, even though we distributed it amongst vets and vet nurses, we did have more representation from veterinary surgeons there, 74%. So stressors, these were the top 10 stressors, and the severity scores are there on that table. And we identified through thematic analysis 3 main factors. So client care and animal challenges, workload and time pressures, and performance anxiety and expectations. They were sort of the core themes. Client care and animal challenges, this encompassed various challenging aspects of the animal's care. So this included things like the financial constraints of the owner, potentially mistreatment of pets by the owner or others, and adverse outcomes for the animal. So some examples of stressors that were labelled under this bracket were complaints about care or cost, animal suffering and death, or clients not allowing necessary intervention or intervention that was deemed necessary by the veterinary surgeon or veterinary professional that was involved in that animal's care. Workload and time pressures. This was had an overemphasis or representation on dealing with staff shortages, which probably isn't surprising to those of us in the room who are currently in the profession. High expectations and need to work quickly or intensively. So again, there's just some examples on the slide of the stresses that were put into this category. So the dealing with staff shortages, neglecting tasks because there's too much to do or not getting to complete your to-do list, for want of a better word, and the pressure to work intensively or quickly, maybe at a speed that feels unnatural or feels pressured for you. Performance anxiety and expectations, this really encompass things like the fear of making mistakes, facing complaints, whether that be from employers, colleagues or clients, and experiencing high performance expectations. And again, this could be from oneself or from others. And again, some examples of stresses that were put into that category, fairly self-explanatory. So there was some group analysis that was done here, and we did find that there's an inverse relationship between stress and experience level. So those in their sort of early career tend to report higher levels of stress compared to those in the later career stages. And we can see here from this table that the groups are based on career stage. So it was 0 to 7, 8 to 15, 16 to 22, and 23 years plus. And the themes are coded by colours, just to make things a little bit easier to hopefully decode. And we can see from this that the fear of making mistakes appears, for example, in the early careers, so in groups 1 and 2, but then it drops off the radar in groups 3 and 4. There are certain stresses there that are making more of a regular appearance. So dealing with staff shortages, for example, appears in all 4 groups, and actually the severity of that stressor is fairly consistent across the groups. So you can see there are similarities there that we can draw threads through, but also differences. And the average scores from group 1 over to the 4th group, you can see the severity scores are lower in the 4th group on average. So in summary then, we found that the workplace stresses fell into 3 categories, so the 3 main themes. The stresses did vary with experience level, but there were some stresses that were consistent across all experience levels. And we also did find that the lowest qualified did experience the highest stress. And although the groups potentially were arguably a little bit large from the point of view of career stage, there was regression analysis done on that to confirm that trend. Implications then and next steps. Training and support needs to target specific stresses, and needs are going to vary according to career stage. So the support that we provide and the training that we provide needs to be targeted to those individual stages. We do need to better understand the mechanisms behind those top stresses and consider rolling out and evaluating targeted training that will hopefully benefit those in the specific career stages that we've identified. If you would like to get in touch with Jason directly, then there are several ways to contact him there, and I'm happy to take any questions too.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions, Becky?
Hi, thank you very much. Well done, because it's never easy to step into shoes like that last minute. So the table that you presented there at the end, which was lovely, is obviously related to years post-graduation.
Yes.
Have you looked at a similar table for veterinary students who completed the survey?
I don't believe we did. Jason would be a best point of call for that, because a lot of the sort of data analysis he worked on. But I think because of the sample sizes, a proportion of vet students compared to veterinary surgeons, I don't know if we extrapolated that far, but Jason could definitely give you more detail on that.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for that. That's really helpful. I was wondering, in your second to last slide, you were speaking about potential highlighting training to support either, I suppose, students or vets. Is that another body of work that you guys are going to be doing in time? I know Jason's got a little project he's done recently where he's got like cohorts doing 3 groups. Is that part of that?
Yes. So at the moment, at Harper and Keele Vet School, the performance and wellbeing is one of the strategic themes which Jason effectively leads on. And at the moment, he has a performance and wellbeing boot camp, so training that we're delivering to our undergraduates. So this, the sort of proposals from this, or the take-homes from this, really are veterinary surgeons, who are in practice, so maybe targeting training. So yes, developing training that maybe will then be delivered to graduated veterinary surgeons, so capturing them in that 0 to 7 years, maybe focusing on, I think the current ideas are focusing on those more severe stresses, so fear of making mistakes was one of the highest stresses that was reported, and also having those difficult conversations.
Fabulous, thank you.
Hi, thank you for the talk. I'm just a bit puzzled about the 85% bias toward female response.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I'm not sure that if you consider, I don't know the Royal College numbers for the percentage of female and male, but I think it's more higher toward veterinary female in the profession. So maybe it's possible it's not really biased, I don't know.
There is a higher, so my recollection, do not quote me on this, is that Royal College data is about 77% female. So we did still have higher than the sort of reported already biased profession that we live in. But yeah, I agree with you, we are female dominated, so there's a degree of that can be explained, but we do have slightly higher than Royal College data that I could find. Thank you.